All right, so I will just give my introduction. So very quickly, for those who are new to Alma Me, we just kind of want to give you an overview of who you are, who we are, what we do, kind of why we do it. So if you're familiar with how we talk about the "Tell me about yourself" question, this is like the "Tell me about yourself" for Alma Me. So, Elena and I fortuitously met through LinkedIn about 3 years ago, which is, you know, great for today's talk because she'll explain to you the ins and outs of how to use it. But we met about 3 years ago, and I was in on the hiring side as a hiring manager, and really seeing that the hiring pipeline was broken. We were starting to have a more and more difficult time finding highly qualified talent, and meeting Elena. And understanding some of the challenges that PhDs were running into, making the challenge, and having worked with a lot of PhDs myself, um, it was a really interesting challenge that we were seeing, which we would see highly qualified people sending hundreds of applications and never really getting a single interview. And so we set out to really solve that problem. And over the past 3 years, we've really figured out how to solve it. Um, so, to give you a little background about myself, I've been a hiring manager, and this is a scary number. I think I'm actually going to have to increase the number here pretty soon. But I've been in hiring for over 20 years. I've worked across SaaS, technology, different consumer brands, primarily in the data and tech space. I have, because I've been on the operational sides of businesses, I've had a lot of involvement in building hiring processes, training hiring teams, mentoring hiring managers, and managing them directly myself. And so I've had a lot of experience sitting in the hiring room and understanding what conversations actually happen behind closed doors. And then Elena, the wonderful Elena, was a PhD herself, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself when she gets into the conversation, I'm sure. But I've had the pleasure of working with her for the past several years, and working through this challenge together. And she kind of represents the voice of the PhD within our business. So, what we actually do, we do something called the Done For You job search. So, for any of you who are actively in your job search right now, you've probably experienced frustration, feelings that your applications are going into the void, feeling like, if you could just reach a person to have them consider you. And we kind of one of the big challenges we identified as we went through this was that there's a lot of burnout in the job search. And when you don't really understand how to cut through all the noise and get to the right people, it can feel like a lot of um, fruitless efforts. And so we decided that we were going to take on all that stress so that job seekers could really focus on the part that's really valuable, which is getting ready for interviews, skill development, those kinds of things. So you can kind of think of us as a marketing agency for PhDs. We'll build your resume, we'll build your cover letter, and then we run your search for you. So we'll actually set up an email address, apply for applications on your behalf, reach out to potential hiring managers, just like a marketing agency would do for a company when a company is trying to reach their customers. And so we apply our strategy, our approach to kind of get those results so that you can really have your time back and focus on coming into the job search really calm, confident, and collected. And so we'll help you focus your job search. We will execute your job search so that it's not costing you not only kind of career opportunities, but also costing you, that stress and angst and worry that can come with the job search. And what we've seen from our approach and our strategy is that on average, people who go through our program are getting 2 to 3 times as many interviews as those running their own searches. And they're often seeing as much as on average, a 23% salary premium. So 23% more than their baseline target resume or salary. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. We like to do these types of sessions and around Careers Week, so that you can get access to some of the resources and some of the info and intel, and know you're getting the right information through the resources that we're providing. So if you're a PhD or a postdoc and you want to be, if you want to get the help that we provide, you can apply to our job search program. Currently, it's only offered in the US, but even if you're not in the US, go ahead and apply. We're considering adding some other countries in the future. Or alternately, you can use our self-directed platform to go through that. If you're at a university and you feel like your students could benefit from having a better strategic direction or would benefit from our method, we do partner with universities around that self-directed e-learning platform as well. We actually just got our courses accredited in Sweden, so they're offered for credit. And then if you're an employer, feel free to reach out to us. We're currently working with over 50 PhDs in their job search. So we've got a lot of qualified people, primarily in the STEM fields, data science, biotech, medical, pharmaceutical research. So feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to extend our network to you. And we're not recruiters, so we do that free of charge. So with that, I will hand it over to Elena to walk us through LinkedIn. So Elena, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. And just quickly, as Angela, I want to just address the two questions. At the moment, as Angela already mentioned, we only operate in the US with the job search program, but I really want to recommend you, if you feel like you need help and you're stuck and something is not working for you, we get a lot of applications, over 100 usually per month, and we realize there are so many PhDs who actually need the help. So what we did, we developed a self-directed platform where you can basically learn anything or everything we teach in the program. The only thing you don't have is the one-on-one support, but I would really say if you're stuck and you feel like, okay, you don't know really where to improve or why you're stuck, this is a really great way of doing it yourself. Cool. But now we want to jump into LinkedIn. And I already saw yesterday there were some questions about LinkedIn, and I hope I can answer them today in the session. I will try to leave some time for questions because I think that's usually everyone's favorite part. So let me start sharing my screen. I will see. Actually, I can. Sorry, guys. Sorry, that's me. That was the wrong button. Share, and then I can just go on here. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, if you can't,
Yes, it's up.
you will probably let me know. I will probably hear from you guys if you can. So today I want to talk to you guys about LinkedIn. As I already mentioned, if you were in the room before when I chatted with Angela, I think LinkedIn is something that is totally underutilized, especially by academics. We often think of it as a business platform, but in reality, it's an extremely powerful tool. And if you know how to navigate it and if you know how to use it, it can really open many, many doors for you. As a matter of fact, as Angela just mentioned earlier, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for LinkedIn, because I met Angela on LinkedIn. And I'm not going to go into that story very deeply, but we recorded a podcast on it. So if anyone is interested, check out the podcast. You will get a follow-up email and we talk about the story on how we met on LinkedIn, because it's pretty amazing and it's a pretty powerful tool if you think about it and reframe your mind from it's a business platform where business people are, and frame it towards something where you can actually engage and meet like-minded people. So, and guys, I know exactly where you're sitting right now. I've been sitting there too. And I thought it was extremely uncomfortable being on LinkedIn at first. So I was still a student, still a PhD student. And I knew I wanted to move outside of academia. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had literally zero network within or outside of academia. So I knew, okay, I have to somehow create this network. And I came across someone who used LinkedIn on a daily basis. She was a PhD student. I got inspired and I said, why not try to find other people who are interested in entrepreneurship or who have built companies. And so I was quite, I would say I didn't dare to post from the beginning. So I really just started by commenting on other people's posts. So if you take something from today, you don't have to become a content creator. You don't have to be an influencer, but you have to be visible, and you can be visible in different ways. I did it firstly only through commenting, and I started building relationships through commenting. And I will tell you a little bit more on how you can do the same without posting a single post. Eventually, I started posting. It took me half a year, and I did start posting. And today I'm at over 140K followers, mostly PhDs and postdocs who are interested in making the transition, because I showed up. And I think this number just embodies one thing, because I think a lot of PhDs, they think of going on LinkedIn as a self-promotion. But what I want to show with this number of 140K followers, I'm creating impact for all those people. They're following me because they think I have something to say that provides value to them. So as you think of what can I write on LinkedIn, I really want to encourage you, don't think of it as self-promotion, but think of it like you're the vehicle. Think of you as the vehicle who adds credibility, and you talk about something that is interesting for other people to know about. So, but before we jump in, and if you have been to any of Angela's and my workshops, you will probably know the answer to the question. And it's funny because when I started Alma Me with Angela 3 years ago, when I asked this question, people were relatively off. And now I'm actually observing that people really have created an awareness about how important networking is. So I would like to ask you to please paste in the chat, and I try to get the chat up here. Try to paste in the chat, what do you think is the percentage of positions filled through networking? And I love that you guys are already exchanging LinkedIn profiles. Please use this as a opportunity to connect with each other. That's exactly what this is for. Awesome, guys. I see there is, from 60 to 99%. Someone said 100. Luckily, not 100, because otherwise there would be no chance of getting a job. Okay, so I see, everything between 55 and 90. And, the reality is, or I don't know, it's probably not the exact number here. It's around 80%. And it doesn't really matter if it's 80 or 60 or 70. At the end of the day, it's a large number of jobs that are actually filled through networking, a large number of jobs that may never appear on the market, that you currently can't access without this network outside of academia. So this session really is aimed to show you how you could build or start building meaningful network while you're in your PhD, while you're in academia. And I will just share with you how I did it, and you can basically replicate it in the same way. Find people that are, in the field of interest, that work in the field of interest of yours, and start building and start engaging. So, but before, I see a lot of PhDs, they come to me and say, oh, Elena, but I send out my CV to people and no one ever responds. And I think it's very important that we first set the stage for what networking is and what it isn't, right? Because networking in itself is relationship building, and it's usually a two-way conversation. So there is a mutual interest in each other, and it's about connecting with like-minded people that share something in common. And you may not think of it, but you already do that. When you go to conferences, you already network with people, and you usually network on the basis of having a common interest within, a similar research field. What it definitely is not is asking strangers for a job. And I have seen that a lot of times, and it usually doesn't play out well. And whenever I talk about this, I want you to put yourself, to take, 10 seconds and put yourselves in the shoes of someone reaching out to you, asking you for a job, a person you have never met. What would you do? And I think for most of the people, the answer is most of the people would either ignore it or would, not do anything. But the reality is, networking is not a transactional ask. It's not something where you go and you ask random people to help you. Because it rarely really works. And that doesn't mean you cannot reach out to people that you don't know at all, but it's a matter of how you do it and what you're asking for. And we will talk about this later a little bit. And yeah, so this is kind of like just so to differentiate what we really mean when we talk about networking. And why I really try to encourage PhDs to start early is because networking is a long-term game. So just as every relationship that you have ever built in your life, networking is relationship building, and it takes time to build trust. Trust is not built overnight. So this really means you want to start building. I have no idea, some of you may be in the middle, some of you may be towards the end, some are in the beginning of their PhD or postdocs, but really, if you take one thing out of this session today, start networking basically today and start building it. And the important thing is, as we also talk about all of these things today, I want you to think of a small thing that you can do after this session. And we want to make the barrier so low that you actually just can go and implement this. And you guys can tell me what you're going to do after the session. So, but the foundation of everything is your LinkedIn profile, right? Because if your LinkedIn profile doesn't clearly, coming back to clarity, doesn't clearly communicate of who you are and who you are professionally and what you're potentially looking for, it's gonna be hard for other people to see the relevance as you gonna start connecting with them or as you're gonna start commenting on posts. And it all really starts with I want to talk about the three foundational things today, which is the photo, the headline, and the about section. I didn't mention the banner, but the thing in the background is, I would say, equally important, because all of these things, they give someone a first impression as they land on your profile. So you want to think about having a profile photo that actually looks professional and also has a high resolution. I would, recommend a photo that is mostly focused upper body or mostly framing your face. I also want to say there are small things that can really make a difference. So as you think about making this photo, it doesn't have to be a professionally taken photo. Find someone with, phones have great cameras. Find a friend, go outside, find some great light, some sort of neutral background, and then just get a photo taken. And that's basically it. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to find a photographer to do it. Um, so that's the first thing. Make a profile photo that actually looks that you're I personally love when people look approachable, so put a smile on. These are the small things that actually, when you see someone smiling, you immediately feel like, okay, this person seems to be approachable. So I really really like that. um the next thing is the headline. And the headline is really something most PhDs are not aware on how impactful it actually is when it comes to the job search, because it does two things. First of all, as you leave comments and as you engage or as you send requests out, everyone who gets, for example, a connection request, they will see the first, I don't know how many characters it is, but they see maybe the first 10 words. So make these words count. So I can't tell you how many connection requests I get every day, but the way I decide is whether I accept it or not is I look at the headline that I can see and I think, is this person relevant to my network or not? And that's how a lot of people make decisions. So you want to really use this and signal relevance. So for example, if you want to be a data scientist in industry, do not write PhD candidate. PhD candidate for most of the people out in the on LinkedIn doesn't really mean all that much. While we live in our bubble in academia, this is a very commonly used term, but it's nothing. Well, if you think about it, let me reframe. If you think about it, 1 to 2% of the people in the world have a PhD. So now you can imagine how many are familiar with that term. Not too many, right? So you want to really translate that title into something that is meaningful to whoever you're trying to connect with, or in the domain where you're actually trying to find a job. So if you think to be, you want to be a data scientist and you're applying for data scientist position yourself as a data scientist. You don't want to think in terms of who I am right now, you need to think about, where am I going to go, right? Where do I want to go? Because if recruiters go out and they look for people who actually could fill positions, they're not going to look for PhD candidate, and they're not going to use this keyword PhD candidate, but what they would use are keywords such as data scientist, or more specifically, they will search for skills that are relevant for the position. As an example, as a data scientist, they may likely look for, skills like R and Python. You can put actually these skills in your headline, because the headline does not only signal relevance, but it's also something that is being picked up by the algorithm as it starts matching recruiter requests with potential profiles. What I also want to say at this stage, the open to work banner is a big discussion always. Should I put it on? Should I not put it on? I'm a big fan of putting the open to work banner on, because not every recruiter has the Recruiter-Lit software. It's extremely expensive. So many small companies may not have access to it. So often how they go, they literally look by who is open to work, and you can signal that through the visible open to work banner. Yeah, coming to the about section, really. The about section is write it basically for your next employer. So what are you looking for? And I think what is also quite apparent, as I, explain a little bit what you should be, or how you should create your profile, in order to be able to write for your next employer or where you're going to go next, you need to have the clarity first, right? And that's, of course, something that I would invite you all to sit and just reflect what you want to do next. And this what comes next can sometimes be a very big question. It took me a very long time to answer myself. But there are lots of different tools and resources like informational interviews, where you can learn from other people that are already in positions where you may want to be, on what it actually means to work in those. And I will talk about this a little later. But let's come back to the about section. So you want to write the about section, for your basically future employer. So they want to land on your profile and they want to see who are you and what you do. I personally love to write in the first person. I love to write about myself as myself. Some people write about the third person. You do what you think suits you the best. You also want to strategically put in keywords. So it doesn't mean that you start listing keywords. It means within the text where you describe who you are and what you do and how you can help companies, you want to naturally put in keywords that are going to be relevant for the job that you're looking for. So for example, you can talk naturally about how you applied your R and Python skills in order to drive business insights. Yeah, business insights in this case is maybe not the right word if you come from academia, where you helped drive further insights on the decision making of, for example, where the experiment goes next, or whatever it may be. So you can naturally woven them in, and they can be picked up again through the algorithm. So, and at the end of the day, close with what you're looking for. We call it a call to action. And a call to action, I can tell you, having worked in marketing, which I do, or content creation, I can tell you call to actions are extremely important, because it signals people that you're, for example, open to work. So you can say, currently looking for opportunities in. And I would definitely say be very specific. If you say currently looking for new opportunities, no one has a clue what you're looking for. Clarity. Coming back to clarity, if you were there yesterday, you need to communicate with clarity where you're going next. If you don't know where to go next, how is anyone else supposed to know? So write clearly that you're looking for opportunities within the field of machine learning or data science, or and you can even put your email so people can contact you. So that about so much about the about section. So this is basically the foundation. So no matter if you use your profile for your LinkedIn for networking or for job searching, get the foundations in place. And we haven't even talked about professional experience. We haven't talked about skills. But my general recommendation is try to have your profile as complete as possible, because this really will help recruiters to pick you up, but also will help other people as they land on your profile to understand who you are and if you're relevant. And as you know from Stacy yesterday, we all have a personal brand. The question is, are we going to build it intentionally, or is it just something, what people would find accidentally because we haven't put any thought into it. And now I want to move over to how can you actually leverage LinkedIn for networking? So how can you make LinkedIn work for you? And as I already pointed out earlier, you absolutely don't have to become a content creator. You don't have to post on LinkedIn to find a job. Can it be helpful? Absolutely. Is it a must? No. So let me talk through the three different ways of how you can actually engage and gain visibility. So the very first way of how you can engage on LinkedIn is through a reaction, just like from Instagram, you can leave a heart or whatever. The thing with reactions is a lot of people leave reactions and it literally doesn't take a single second. Well, it takes 1 second to leave a reaction, but you don't actually have to put a lot of thought in. And because you're just reacting, but you're not actually, for example, leaving a comment, which helps the person who wrote the post to understand how you think or how you feel or what your experience is, where they then can come back and maybe comment and engage with you. They don't get to know you and they can't learn anything about you. So when you go back to networking is relationship building. The basis of every relationship, and I guess we can agree on this, is trust. And how is trust built? Trust is built through continuous interaction. So one comment on one post may not help you to build a relationship with someone. But as you show up continuously, people will start recognizing your name and people will respond and they get to start to build a relationship with you. And I cannot tell you how many times I have done that. I have met people. I commented on their post, they commented on my post, and then we engage through the comments in the comment section. And I have built relationships with people literally from all over the world. Later, we will have Elena on the session. I met Elena on LinkedIn. I met Stacy on LinkedIn. We met Chris on LinkedIn. So this entire Careers Week is made up of people we have built relationships with. So they come to this Careers Week and they want to, help you guys to make the transition because they know us. So this is the thing. If you manage to build these relationships, um, it can really open you doors. And I cannot emphasize it enough. And I know sometimes it sounds cheesy and sometimes we wonder but it is the reality. So commenting is a really good strategy to build relationships. Now the question is, how should one comment, right? And I have in our course, I have a whole section just on how can you comment, and I give clear advice because I've had PhDs, they said to me, I don't know how to comment on posts. So what is not a great way to engage? Because think back of relationship building. Great post is very generic and doesn't add anything and doesn't really leave any way for anyone else to engage back. So you want to, for example, add your own experience. Maybe you want to ask a question or maybe you want to talk about your own perspective. So there are many ways of how you can engage. Um, yeah. So find your own way and also just test it. I mean, honestly, I always say to people, if you want to if you want to start commenting, you can always choose my post. I think everyone can relate in some way to my posts. For all of you, probably you guys would have to say something. And I'm also a good test object because I most of the time respond if I get the time. I really try to engage with my audience. So if you feel like I want to leave a comment, I don't know with whom or where, you can visit my posts. And then last but not least, posting. Posting has been a game changer for me. But I'm not here to preach to you that this is something you should be doing, but it's something that I can tell you, it gives you visibility. So while you go out and comment on all of these people's posts, now you gain the visibility and people come and comment on your posts. The important thing here is consistency is key. So you can't go out and post once and be disappointed that no one has commented on your post. It takes time to build up. And I can tell you, if you first start building relationships through commenting like I did for half a year, these people already, you have a connection. So you have many, many, many people on LinkedIn that already know you. So the day you will start posting, they want to give back. This is just the way it goes. At the end of the day, often it's a two-way street. I have most of the time the same people commenting on my posts and vice versa. And it's just because we have this relationship. Yeah, that's it about if we think about how we can start networking actually. And I want to show you here an example to just show you, if you think about I wrote one post, I got 200,000 impressions almost, right? From one post. So I have reached a lot of people. But equally, I got I wrote a comment, and it wasn't even like that intellectually high of a comment, but I really loved the graphic. It got 700 impressions. So I want to really encourage you to think of every comment you leave as a mini post. So you can actually also position yourself as an expert, and people actually do engage with the comments. They read the comments, and they actually may go and see, because now you can see um, here, as I wrote this comment, you can see help PhDs kickstart careers outside of academia, right? That's why the headline is also important as you start engaging, because people will see and they go like, oh, Elena, interesting, right? They may read this comment and go like, oh, she's helping PhDs kickstart careers outside of academia. So what you will do now, you will read this comment and you will think, oh, Elena seems relevant to me because I'm interested in the topic. You go on my profile and you either hit follow or you connect. So this is the way it works. So you need to be also clear. In this case, I think my statement is very clear. There is no confusion in what I do. Good. And then I want to take a minute to talk about informational interviews, because I have mentioned them already before. If you are at a stage where you say, I don't really know where to go next, this is such a powerful tool, and it's my favorite free tool in the world. I can't even, like, every time I go somewhere, I talk about this tool. And it's really such a cool way. So just think of it as PhDs who have made the transition and now work in a role, and you would love to learn more about about that role, right? And this it's powerful for two reasons. So you can gather more information about a role that you're potentially interested in. You can get insider info on the role. You can start learning which language do they use and how do they talk about their work, which is really, really cool as you move into the interview stage, because you want to adapt the language people use in industry. So that's the first thing. And then, of course, you also start building network. You connect with one more person, you meet them for a coffee chat, and this can be totally online. And this is meant for you to learn. It's not meant for you to ask for a job. You just go in and you have a conversation. I would really recommend, I mean, I can tell you one thing. If I have learned something um, uh, with my work at Alma, everyone I invited to a podcast, no one ever said no. And do you know why this is the case? Because everyone loves talking about themselves. I promise you. If I'm invited to a podcast, I always say yes, even if I'm busy. Because who doesn't want to share their story? Who doesn't want to be heard and seen? So invite them and ask them questions. How did you make the transition? And learn from them. People do love sharing their stories. I think what is important as you reach out for informational interviews, to not set the expectations right. You may reach out to a lot of people, and you can go on LinkedIn and you can put in the search bar data scientists, and you can see, can filter different data scientists, maybe find some who have done a PhD, because that immediately creates connection. They maybe even remember how they felt when they made the transition. So this is a really great way of identifying people. But then, moreover, it's really important how you reach out to. Be very clear on what you're asking, and ask for 20 minutes of their time potentially, and just say that you would love to learn more and you're a PhD making the transition. So now the important thing is, don't expect everyone to respond. Don't go out, send this to 5 people and think, oh, no one is responding, I'm giving up. I think the important thing is to recognize that most people won't respond. And I think also important to recognize it's not personal, it has nothing to do with you. That's simply the way it is. If you want to actually increase the likelihood that someone is going to respond, go on their profile and check how active they are, because often non-response comes also from a fact that you have 1 billion users on LinkedIn, but most of them are not actually active. They have made a profile once upon a time, and they're not active. So you can go on their profile, you can see post and comments. And as we're talking about the comments, you can go on the profile and you can see every single comment this person has ever made. And I want to mention it here too, because this is really important, because it shows one thing. Every potential employer can go onto your profile too and can see every comment you've ever made. So you really want to think about the way you engage on LinkedIn, because it will be visible. And it can help people to form an opinion of who you are. Because we all have a tone of voice and we all have a specific way of engaging, and it comes through. Good, guys. And with this, we're at the end of this presentation because I wanted to leave 5 minutes for questions. But if you have been here the last 2 days, I'm going to invite you back again. And maybe this is the exact right time to bring this up again, because I would really encourage you, if you feel inspired by what I just told you or what I just taught you, write about your key takeaways, share it with your peers, let them know, what you've learned. Maybe they get inspired too. And this could be one action that you will take this week. And yeah, I would really love to hear maybe something, a reflection about the careers week so far. What was your favorite session? You can talk about anything. Importantly, do tag me and do tag Alma Me, so I can actually choose a winner for our 12 months access to the Alma Me platform, where you can, by the way, learn everything I just taught you in extreme depth. Yeah. And let me see, with this, I want to say, since this is the LinkedIn session, if you haven't connected with me, if you haven't yeah, if you haven't found me through LinkedIn, a lot of the people that are probably in the session know about Alma Me through LinkedIn. But do please feel free to connect with me and feel free to engage with me and let me know that you came through the session, because I really love that. So with this, I want to come to an end, and I want to give you guys some time for questions. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
Elena, would you like me to kind of
Yeah, if you
moderate the
have some
questions?
sort of if you
Yeah,
have some sort of overview of what is maybe like a commonly asked question that I could.
yeah. So, one of the questions, let's see, sorry, I'm going through all the. Okay, for the headline, what do I put if I still don't know what I want to do after the PhD?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So I think the important thing is, everything I teach you today is an ideal case scenario, right? In an ideal case, you already know where you want to go and you can clearly state it. If you don't know it, leave it as you have it right now, or think about, instead of saying PhD candidate or PhD student, what I really love, I wrote, I help PhDs kickstart careers outside of academia. Think of something you do. Maybe you turn complex data into insights for to inform decisions within, medicine. So I would go and not just write PhD candidate, turn it into something that creates curiosity, that signals, in this case, maybe other scientists, what you're doing. So think about, what is your purpose to be on there, to make your headline accordingly. And most importantly, what you all need to take from this session. It's better to start with an incomplete profile and not perfect, but get started. So the barrier is low. Just get started and start building as you go. I didn't have a perfect profile either. I honestly think my profile is still not perfect after 3 years. But yeah, so just get started.
Okay, and then there is another question about headlines. So I have a question about headlines. Mine is currently trying to include area keywords to be findable for recruiters. It doesn't follow the structure you recommend. This was advised to me by Claude. And I wonder, is LinkedIn even a tool to be discoverable for recruiters?
100%. So most of the profit LinkedIn makes is not through me and you engaging. It's through something called Recruiter Lit. It's Recruiter using it as a sourcing platform for talent. So 100%. That's why you wanna also optimize your profile
Yeah.
towards being discoverable.
And I can actually add
Yeah.
something to this as well, is that it's not necessarily your headline. So the way that recruiters are going through the tool, they're not going through the feed in the same way that you
No.
and I are going through the feed to find people and just look for headlines. They have a whole kind of database search where they can look for people based on experience, based on keywords. The keyword search in LinkedIn looks through your entire profile. So it doesn't just look through your headline. So that's not kind of how you're showing up. But in just to layer on to what Elena said is, have something that you do. Don't have PhD candidate, have scientist, have researcher, and then the subject matter that you research. That's at least a start that puts you in the realm of where you might end up. So again, the LinkedIn recruiter side of the tool is a totally different thing. Think of it like a search engine. When you go and look for jobs, they essentially have a candidate board where they go and they look for candidates. So it's just kind of the other side of that coin. And the interface looks fairly similar as well. So in that way. Okay. So let's see. I found out some people in industry don't know about coffee chats or informational interviews. One time I asked a person to have an informational interview as I was interested in learning about their career journey, and they said the only way for you to get an interview with me is to apply to one of our roles. So what do I do in that situation? Other times people ask me, "What do you mean by that?" I did explain then, but I didn't know what to do in the first situation. So how would you advise people handle that, Elena?
Okay, I mean, these were like kind of two questions. I think the first thing is maybe call it, you don't have to call it an informational interview because this indeed may be a word that is not known to everyone. You can call it a coffee chat, you can call it a 20 minutes chat to learn more about how they made the transition. So you don't have to use the word at all. As for the hiring manager, interesting response. I would say don't give up. People are very different. This is also as you go through doing this, every person you talk to, always remember this is one individual experience, right? What they report about a company, how they talk about their own experience. And I think it's the same as you go out and one hiring manager responds in this way. That's fine. There are plenty of people that are absolutely open to talk to you, and I can guarantee you this. I don't know if I answered the question at all, but I tried.
Okay. All right.
We
So
can do one more because then Emily's session starts in 3 minutes, or we
yeah,
can do two
so
more.
this is
Sorry, guys.
another one.
Yeah.
Somebody actually asked, where did the name Alma Me come from?
Oh, Angela, you can answer this so much better than I can do that.
So, when we were starting, Elena and I have a very humanistic approach to how we approach everything. We think every individual has value. And when you nurture the right things in people, then it can help them flourish. And so a lot of places you go will focus on skill deficits. They'll focus on all the things that you're doing wrong. And we're all about, finding out about your superpowers and where are you uniquely positioned to solve problems and what are your strengths? Because we find that that really helps people do amazing things. And so this word comes from a play on alma mater. Alma actually means uh, nurture in Latin. And it can mean other things like soul in Spanish and Portuguese. And so this idea of just kind of nourishing your soul so that you can get where you want to be is really where the name came from.
Yeah, so it's all about empowering individuals in their career search,
So,
basically.
all right. So we've got about 2 minutes. So let me see if I can find one more. Okay, this one is more of a pragmatic one. Elena, who are the most likely people to accept the invite to chat on LinkedIn? How can you find the right people?
Who I will say it like this, talking about my own experience, and remember it's one experience, but I accept invites when people have a relevant headline. When I see, okay, I mean, for me, it's like when I see people who are, PhDs or postdocs, this signals relevance for me because I feel like I can help you. Right. So if I read something about someone who is the founder of an AI tool in research, I'm less likely to accept. So it is, uh, I think you increase your chances if you know um, why you target certain people and if you signal relevance. I personally like to include a personal message. So, you have a few words to say why we should connect. So that would be my best tip. I have also once heard people don't like personal messages because they feel like they have to respond, so it makes their job a bit harder. Sometimes they just want to accept. So, but I personally like personal messages if someone shows me that they have put a thought in why we should connect.
Yeah. And on my side, there's a few things that I look to do. I look to see if the person is even active on LinkedIn. So have they posted, have they commented, have they engaged in like the past 3 months? Because some people aren't even on there. They have their profile, everything set up, but they don't ever go on. So I look at people's profiles for that. But then when somebody reaches out to me, um, I like it when they actually know something about what I do, because there's a lot of people who outreach me for all kinds of things on there. And so my inbox is like a mess. I actually don't have time to get back to everybody or even to read all the messages that come through there. And so I'll skim, and if that first sentence is something that I can help with, I will. So I have to really prioritize who I respond back to through there. But there's a lot of people who come through and they're like, "Hey, can you hire me?" And I'm like, "Well, we're not hiring right now." So, I that's not something that I can help with. So, also kind of look at their profile and see what they're doing.
Okay, before we move on, I just want to hear, guys, one thing that every one of you is going to do based on the session of what we just talked about. Just dump it in the chat, whether you write a comment, whether you make an improvement in your profile, whether you gonna write a post, or I just want to I want you to think about the smallest action you can do that you can commit to get started. Change the headline, updating headshot. Good. Work on my LinkedIn profile. Okay, I'm going to keep reading here. You can, if you want, we can welcome Emily, or we can start welcome Emily, and then we can pin her.
So, let me find Emily in the chat.
Change headline, comment, improve profile, comment and update. Yep. Yep. Engage
So
more.
I don't see her in the chat. Let me just message her real quick.
Mm-hmm. Change the headline. I'm going to post more. Okay, I've already updated. Awesome. I love the action, action, because it's all about taking action. And I read a book, maybe I can tell you guys about this until Emily is here. I have read a book the other day. It's called Atomic Habits. I don't know if any one of you has read it, but it's a really amazing book, because while I feel like I know a lot of the things already, this was really gave me a little bit of another new perspective about just do the smallest thing you can do. So for example, if you feel like not going to the gym, say, okay, I go to the gym, I do 10 minutes. Because what likely happens, you will stay longer. But what is the minimal or the smallest thing you can do today where the barrier of entry feels so low that it's, not overwhelming? Because what happens usually, if the barrier of entry is too high, then it feels overwhelming and we completely freeze and we get paralyzed and don't do anything. Comment more. I will start commenting on posts. I love that. Honestly, guys, I mean, commenting can be such a game changer, and you can find people that are relevant to you. You can start building relationships, and this works inside and outside of academia. You will see, as you may become more active after the session on LinkedIn, there are tons of academics on LinkedIn. It's actually growing and growing, so it becomes also more and more relevant for people who want to stay inside of academia, and not only, for people who are actually job hunting or search for careers outside. Yeah, 100%. Can we comment on a post of a person we didn't interact with? 100%. So, when you think about LinkedIn, you can definitely go out and you can talk. Basically, you can comment on anyone's posts. I comment on a lot of people's posts I have never met in my life. What I usually I comment on posts that talk about things that I feel like are relevant to my work, that I feel like I can add something meaningful. So I wouldn't go out to a random person and probably say, great post. I see tons of people that talk in the space of PhD career transitions. I have never heard in my life before. I have never interacted before, and yet they talk about something I think I have something to contribute. So I will share my own perspective, out of the work that I do, because I feel like I have something to share. I love this 5 to 10 minutes of liking, commenting a few times per week. I think the clearer we set our goals, like 5 to 10 minutes, every week, or like every Monday, every, Wednesday, I take that time, the more likely we are to do them. If it's just a fluffy goal, it may just, disappear. So I really think it's great to set yourself some time. And honestly, 10 minutes, everyone has 10 minutes every second day, right? It's a matter of prioritizing. Mm, mm. I'm just reading.
We also have some questions in the Q&A button.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, we have a Q&A button. This is so fancy. Okay, I can see here until Emily is going to arrive.
Yeah, she is switching over right now. She had the
Okay.
old link.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. As you guys have noticed, we had to switch. Um, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to tip off, here's advice for improving LinkedIn for recruiters without tipping off my employers that I'm looking for a new job. Um, improving your LinkedIn profile, I think, is not something where anyone should get concerned about as an employer. It's just, it's your professional page. I wouldn't expect, so if someone in my team ramped up their LinkedIn, I hope they're not doing this to find a new job, or I wouldn't suspect them. The open to work banner will be difficult, obviously. In this case, you can put an invisible open to work banner, which will still be picked up by recruiters who use the software Recruiterlit. Wonderful.